Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Look, and I'm here with Rome Hartman, star of stage and screen and the CBS Evening News, at least in First Look. So, Rome, obviously, we're doing a lot on the school shooting in Pennsylvania. Follow-up, Byron Pitts is there. A lot more information is coming out about this man, this 32-year-old milk truck driver. His wife has issued a statement. There was some information that he molested two minors 20 years ago. Is that right?
There was a briefing from the state police, and it's still a little unclear to them. His wife, has told them that in a phone conversation just while this was all underway yesterday, he talked about the fact or some charges that he had molested relatives a long, long time ago. But he apparently explicitly put in the suicide notes that he left at home that he had been dreaming about molestation and that maybe he intended to do this. Everything you hear about this makes you more and more disgusted.
But it's also very confusing right now. I think
it is confusing, and I think some of that confusion is probably never going to be completely cleared up what he had in mind, because the one thing that the police made quite clear is that he went there so unbelievably prepared to lock himself and those people into that place, and maybe for a very long time. And
it's candles, right?
It's just about as ugly as anything I've ever heard.
But obviously, we're taking this horrific incident and trying to broaden it out to address other issues that every parent and every student in this country probably is concerned about every time an incident like this happens, and that is school safety in general, right?
Yeah, I think everybody, I know, your kids, my kids, everybody that has kids in school wonders today, okay, how safe are they? What are the schools doing? What are their rules? How do they prevent outsiders or intruders from coming in? It's a question everybody's asking. And we have teams, Kelly Kobayea in Texas and Cindy Bowers in Illinois, in two very different school districts, one in a very small town, and unfortunately these incidents seem, certainly in the last week, have come in very rural areas. And then Cindy in a big suburban school district outside of Chicago, trying to address these very questions. So hopefully we'll have some answers about how very different schools are coping with and dealing with this.
Obviously, we're continuing with the Mark Foley story, which has become a political nightmare for the Republican Party, not only for Dennis Hastert, but for what it portends in the midterm elections and the conservative base, and whether or not they'll stay home and objecting to this kind of scandal. And we have an interesting free speech tonight, probably not nearly as controversial as the one last night. We've heard a lot about that free speech, which was a father of a young man killed in Columbine, who had an interesting, and some probably would say, fairly radical take on the cause. The causes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think a lot of people found what he had to say. Well, I think a lot of people disagree with him. And a lot of people who do disagree with him expressed that sentiment to us in emails and that sort of thing, including some folks inside CBS. I think there are also people out there that feel the way he does, and we heard from some folks like that. It's started a really interesting conversation, much of which is on the blog and on the public eye section of CBS News. So it's an interesting conversation. But tonight we have a former page, congressional page, who's our free speaker, talking about how painful it is to have this episode with Mark Foley and the current scandal. He fears tar a program that is really a wonderful thing for literally over the years thousands of high school kids. And so that's a really interesting perspective on that program.
And then I just want to mention we have a terrific show closer tonight on this new Clint Eastwood directed movie called Flags of Our Fathers about Iwo Jima and that particular battle. And I'm very excited because this is the first interview that Clint Eastwood is doing, which I know will lead to many other interviews, but to get the first crack at Mr. Eastwood, so to speak, is really quite exciting for us to feature that on an evening news broadcast, which is something sort of new and different.
Bill Whitaker's reporting the story.
As they used to say on the Shake and Bake commercial, and I helped. Anyway, all right. Nobody remembers that except for people who are our age. Well, you're older than I am, Rome, so I hope you do.
So much older.
Yeah, anyway. All right, so that's it for this edition of First Look.